Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested anonymously by a viewer. Have you ever noticed on some cards, like for example this Flawless Forgery here, that it tells you to exile a card from your opponent's graveyard, and then it tells you to copy it, and then it says you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost, as in that part is actually optional. So if you chose not to cast the copy, then what would happen? What kind of characteristics does it have? What zone would it be in? And is there anything fun that we could do with it? Let's take a close look at exactly how the game handles this sort of situation, and we'll get some answers. Alright, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about would be this rule here, which indicates that if you copy a card, then the copy is going to start out in whatever game zone that your original card that you copied was in. And so this, incidentally, is exactly the reason why things that copy spells actually have two commonly used templates. There's one when you're copying a spell that's on the stack, and it tells you to just copy that spell. And there's another when you have effects like what we said with the Flawless Forgery here, where we copy something that's in a different zone, and then we play the copy. The ones where we're copying a spell that's already on the stack don't include that instruction to play the copy, because when you copy something that's on the stack, the copy is itself going to be on the stack, the same game zone that the copy originated from. And so that means that we aren't going to need to play it in order to get the copy onto the stack. On the other hand, if you were to copy something that was in the exile zone, then we would need to play the copy in order to get it on the stack. I talked a little bit more about this in another video, and you can check that out if you'd like some more details. So it actually turns out that this facet of the rules has some real-life consequences, especially in situations like this. So let's take, for example, this Drannith Magistrate, and it says that you can't cast spells from a zone other than your hand, which, if you look closely, is exactly what we are trying to do here with this Flawless Forgery. The Flawless Forgery is going to copy a spell, and then it's going to tell you to cast the copy. And because we cannot cast spells from any zone other than our hand, it would not be legal for you to cast this copy of a spell from the exile zone. The Drannith Magistrate is going to see that as you trying to cast a spell, even though it's not really a normal casting of a spell like what you might normally think of. And so that means that we would not be able to have the Flawless Forgery work out very well for us in that case. On the other hand, take a look at this Weathered Runestone, and you'll notice that it only says that you can't cast spells from libraries or graveyards. And of course, that's not what we're trying to do here. When we copy the card, then we have the card in the exile zone. And that means that when we try to cast the copy is originating from the exile zone, not from a library and not from the graveyard. And so that means that we would be able to cast the copy and have it resolve perfectly normally, even with a Weathered Runestone out. Pretty cool trick, right? Okay, so with that being the case, there was one other point that I wanted to touch on, which is what would happen if you didn't cast the copy. And there's certainly lots of reasons why this could come up, like for example, maybe there's something like a Drannith Magistrate that makes it illegal for you to choose to cast the copy, or maybe there's some reason why you wanted to exile a card out of your opponent's graveyard so they wouldn't have it again, but you also maybe thought that casting the card yourself might not be super well aligned with your current game plan. So, what would happen in the case that you decided not to copy that spell? And unfortunately, the answer to that question is kinda disappointing. You see, it turns out that we have this state-based action here, which indicates that anytime we have a copy of a spell that's in a zone other than the stack, then that copy is just gonna cease to exist the next time state-based actions are performed. And so notice that the game does not perform state-based actions in the middle of the resolution of a spell, such as Flawless Forgery, so that means that it's a-okay if we have the copy of the spell existing in the exile zone for a brief period of time. We just need to make sure that that copy makes its way onto the stack by the time the state-based actions actually do get performed, at the end of the resolution of Flawless Forgery. In the case that we do not cast that copy, then that means the copy is going to still be in the zone that it originated from, in this case the exile zone. And that means that the next time the game performs state-based actions, then it's going to see a copy of a spell in the exile zone, and that copy is going to cease to exist. So there isn't a whole lot of potential for something super fun to come up, like where if we used some kind of a card that takes us something out of the exile zone and puts it in your deck or into your graveyard, there's not really a lot of opportunities to do stuff like that because the state-based action is being a real wet blanket. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.